Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to SmartBase, the home of Spyrosoft here in the UK. And thank you for attending our event, Challenges in Business and Sport. First of all, massive thank you for everyone coming out on this hideous afternoon. We've got some of our amazing clients I can spot around the room, some of the Spyrosoft team as well, which is fantastic. We've got members of local sports clubs here right at the front, playing in the front row, specifically for Poppy. And we've got some members of the local Dorset business community. So thank you all for coming out on this, as I said, hideous day. Couple of bits about the event. We're going to, first of all, run through a panel discussion with Dodge, Poppy and myself. We're going to then have a short break. And then we will return with questions from the floor, whether that's in person, you can ask questions yourself. That's absolutely fine. Or you can drop a question in the box. Or if you're online, feel free to ask questions in the chat. So, as many of you know, Spyrosoft are a technology company who deliver technology solutions to our clients to help deliver real business value. Now, in all technology projects, as many of you know, they're not without their challenges. So today we're going to talk to our guests about their own challenges in their route to the top, whether it's in business or in sport. So please welcome our guests, Poppy Cleall and Dodge Woodall. So welcome from me as well. Thank you both for coming down. I think Dodge has flown in from Ibiza this morning, and I think it's not been as I think you come down from North London, so not quite as glamorous as Ibiza. But I'm going to start with you, Poppy. You've played for England. You've played in the World Cup. You've played in the Six Nations. You've captained your country. You've won the Premiership numerous times, but I know it's not always been easy. Okay, so what was your journey, and what challenges did you have to overcome, and where did it all start?
So I think for me in my journey, you're always constantly getting challenged, and there's been numerous sort of challenges that you see and you don't always see. Those challenges like evolve as you get older, and sometimes the challenges that you once had, you don't anymore. So I think, when I was growing up, the challenge was there was very limited access to female sports for myself and my sister. And then, when I then decided I want to play rugby for England, it wasn't viable to be a professional women's rugby player. So there was that challenge. I ended up doing a lot of jobs from, I was a receptionist in a fancy dress shop. I then became a prison officer for 3 years. Then I went back and worked in Sainsbury's, all just so I could be a female athlete. And then we finally went professional. Sort of the challenges since then have been, let's say, people's opinions. And that's not, fans or people watching, that's just like people like your coaches and stuff, and you've got to remember that other people's opinions don't define you. I've been lucky enough to have 4 different coaches in my time at England, and 2 of them have been very successful under, 2 of them I haven't. And that just doesn't define you, and that doesn't define your journey. So I think the challenges I face have always changed and are constantly evolving, but no one's journey's a straight linear line. There's ups and downs, and it's just how do you enjoy those highs, but how do you also enjoy the lows? Because that's part of the process, and enjoying those lows is part of the, is sort of, you get them from the pressure. And do you enjoy that, or do you run away? And quite a lot of the female athletes you'll speak to sort of enjoy that process even as much as we might complain about it.
I mean, just on that point, Poppy, you played in the World Cup final. It was amazing in New Zealand, but you said it was a loss. It was, but you got to the final. How did you deal with the high of getting to a World Cup final, and the disappointment of losing right at the end?
Yeah, that was tricky. So I remember walking out Eden Park, New Zealand. An amazing venue, so much history in that stadium. We'd sold out the available seats, so 45,000 people. Walking out to sing the national anthem, it was like goosebumps, and I thought, how lucky am I to be here in this moment? And let's just go for it. Let's try and take this trophy home. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. We lost in the last play, which is, you wake up that morning and you still had you could still become world champion. But the next day you woke up, it was like, nah, you ain't got that opportunity anymore. That's gone. And that was just the hardest part. I was like, I want to go back to yesterday morning when I woke up and I still had that chance, and it's just gone. And I think that was like tough. We did a lot of work with sports psychologists before the event, because that's sort of, it could happen. So we put our sort of hat in the ring and we go, right, we want to be world champions, and it is a disaster and an absolute failure if we come back and we're not. And you've got to sort of make sure you're prepared for that. As much as you don't want that to happen, you've got to be prepared. So we had done a lot of work, but still it's hard. It was really, really hard. And it was a few months of like heartbreak essentially, but you bounce back, you get back on the horse, and you've got another 4 years to work even harder to try and win it again.
No, thank you, Poppy. Dodge, I'll come to you next. I went to one of the first Bournemouth Sevens when you could literally walk in, across the grass. I think Poppy might have been there throwing drink over the fence, but we won't touch on that. How did you go on that journey? Because it's now, I think it's the biggest music and sports festival in Europe, but it started as a small idea. So how did that go, and what challenges did you have to come on the way?
There was loads of challenges, really. We kind of went from an idea of creating something different, where in the UK, there was music festivals. There was your Glastonbury's, your Reading, your Leeds festivals, your Isle of Wights. I went to Dubai Sevens, I think in about 2005, 4, 5 and 6. And I was like, how can I combine sport with music? I was well connected in the rugby world, and I thought about creating Bournemouth Sevens, just an idea with a mate sitting on a beach, and it's kind of grown into the beast it is today. But like Poppy was saying, it's not plain sailing. When you talk about entrepreneurship and people think it's just like that, and you see people who are successful entrepreneurs now, they've gone through hell to get to where they are, and we're now 17 years into the festival. But there's been lots of lows within that period, and there's been so many highs. But I think the hardest part was building the brand and building something that we knew that I wanted to create an experience where people would want to keep coming back to. It's fairly easy to go down the route of saying, okay, let's put on a big DJ or 3 big DJs or a big band where they cost you 100 grand or 150 grand. But we made, for the first 10 years, I didn't want to put a big DJ on. We had 100 local DJs. Everyone we had on board, all the contractors were local, from the marquees, showers, toilets, fencing, security, police, everything. But the hardest part of that was in 2008 when we decided we're going to do it. I thought it was going to cost 100 grand to put on, and then 6 months prior to that first festival, we ran out of money, because I was thinking in my simple mind that I was going to pay everyone after the festival. But everyone in their simple minds and clever minds were going, well, if the festival isn't a success, you're not going to pay us. So it was kind of, they wanted the money up front, which is understandable. And it was 2008, which was the global financial crisis. So the world went tits up. No banks were loaning money. No one was coming on board, etc. And you have to have that conversation with your wife, which is a difficult conversation about losing that first 100 grand and walking away from this idea. Or do we gamble and risk the family house? And that's what we did. And we remortgaged the family house to put on a sports event in a field. It's quite when I look back, I think, are you mad? Like, what were you thinking? But I'm glad we did it. I'm glad it's paid off. But I think the point there is that there's a lot of difficult moments when you're trying to build a business. I'm a firm believer in any businesses that we've grown over the last 25 years. It takes 5 years to even break the back of something, and to break even, it takes 5 years. People think you can break even within a year or 2 years. It's very, very difficult. So the festival, actually, to break the back of it was 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's 5 years. And that's when we started to come into the proper money. Yeah. But those 5 years, you're paying yourself last, and you're building something where everyone's coming and having fun for 3 days of the year, and you're going again for the following year. Because you need better fencing, you need more showers, you need more security, you need more teams. And in year one, it cost 300 grand to put on. And we made £1,000 profit, which sounds rubbish. If you work a whole year and you earn £1 grand, it's like, what? But it was all new to us. So we did that. And there was a guy called Melvin Ben, who owns Reading Festival and Leeds Festival. He's probably the biggest promoter in Europe. And he loves his sport. And he came down, he just said, Dodge, I said, have you got any advice? And he goes, don't change a thing. Keep doing what you're doing. And we've just been relentless for the last 17 years of living and breathing this event.
How did you deal with the COVID years? Because in the festival business, that must have been a massive challenge. I mean, you didn't even know what was happening, did you, in 2020 summer and even 2021 summer? How did you deal with that?
2020, it was March the 23rd, 2020, and we'd sold out. By the time, so this was 2020, we're coming to our 13th year. And I was thinking, I remember looking at my wife and saying, oh shit, they're unlucky for some 13, but I hope we're fine. Anyway, we sold 30,000 tickets out, sold out. And then 2 months before, Boris spoke and said there's not going to be no festivals, or this Chinese flu's coming over, or pandemic, or COVID, all these words I didn't have a clue about. So I was there Googling, and we had to, our festival was in the May bank holiday every year. We had to postpone it and move it to the August bank holiday. So it gave us a couple of months breathing space, thinking, oh, it'll blow over, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. Got to the August, and Boris and his team were just like, no festivals are happening this summer. We're like, shit, like this is real, because we've had no investment. It's my wife and I, still independently owned. It's not like you've got Live Nation who own you and they can just take it on the chin of losing that amount of money. And we lost a lot of money that year. So the main thing for us at that point was to keep the team. And what we do at our festival, and I haven't got many strengths, but some of my strengths is hiring and creating culture and creating a good vibe. And the most important thing for us at that time, because all our staff at that time, we had 7 full-time staff, worked on this event all year round, was to protect the team. Because as soon as you lose the team, you're going to lose your festival. And you build really strong bonds with your team. And we've had people with us now for 10 years, a few of them 10 years, 9 years, 8 years, 7 years. So then we postponed it. So basically, May 2020 couldn't happen. August bank holiday, we're thinking, yeah, it'd be fine. That was cancelled. May 2021, people rolled over their tickets. That got postponed. We moved to August 2021, and 7 weeks before, Boris said, yeah, you can put your festival on. So you remember, if you imagine, there's been a year and a half where people aren't working behind bars, people aren't pouring pints, no security are working, no one's been working. We got 7 weeks to find 800 staff to work at a festival. You know, that was a challenge in itself, but I've got to say, I absolutely loved COVID. I know you probably think that's nuts and stuff, but I really do. I love risk, and I love challenge. I love bring it on. I'm even getting goosebumps now talking about it. Like, a little bit weird, but that period in my life, we lost a lot of money in 2020. But I just become so excited to create 2 new businesses on the back of losing Bournemouth Sevens. Because if we'd have lost it that second year, we might not be here today. You know, we had 7 weeks, and luckily that festival absolutely smashed it, because even more people wanted to come out, and it was a bumpy year for us. You know, people have been locked up for a year and a half, chomping at the bit to get on the beers, basically.
That's amazing, Dodge. Thank you. I'm going to come back to you, Poppy, now. In my technology career, I've been mentored by some amazing people all the way back, and I've been in technology a long time, as I tell people. Who's been key to your career all the way back to current day? Who are the, I don't know, 2 or 3 people you'd pick out who've really helped you?
Okay, like rugby is a bit different because you don't really have, you know, a boss or as such. And I think with, you know, your coaches, you could sign up to like for Saracens, and this is your coach, and then all of a sudden it changes. And you don't have a say in that. You don't have a decision, and they've gone, and then you get the next one. Like I mentioned earlier, we've had 4 England coaches, and then at Sarries I've had a couple, and then you change clubs and you get confused. So, you know, if I'm looking at the people around me and who's really like being a role model or mentor to me, it's probably the players and the players I play with. You know, I've been lucky enough to play with people like Rocky Clark, Marley Packer. When I first went to Bristol, the old England captain was there, Catherine Spencer. And I think that, you know, those are the sort of people that really helped me and guided me when I became professional and when I played in the Premiership, because, you know, they've been there, done that. And it was someone really easy to learn off. They've also, you know, relate to your struggles and relate to your challenges. They can help you along the way, because we've all got similar sort of paths and issues we might have, and we all were trying to juggle full-time jobs and try and play for England, and the issues that sort of arose from that. So yeah, definitely those sort of players around me I definitely looked at. Obviously when I was younger, my grassroots coach Steve Benson was a huge role model, and I've always said that, like, he taught you so much, and when you're in those early years, you really, really do look up to the people around you. They might not know it, and they might think, why are you looking up to me? I've got sort of not much to offer here. But, they guide you in some of the big moments in your life and career. And then sort of, if you make mistakes, they kind of put the arm around you and help you, guide you through. So yeah, definitely sort of my grassroots coach, and then the players around me, because they've been there, done that, and it's just somebody that you can really gain insight and knowledge from.
How important have your family been? Because obviously you play with your sister. I know your dad, especially, and your mum when you were younger. How important have they been in the highs and the lows?
Yeah, so they've been huge. Like every sort of elite athlete, they need that support system around you. And my family, I've got an identical twin sister, so I was always really lucky to have a best friend wherever I went. So when I went to my local rugby club at under sixes, I wasn't the only girl on the team, which is historically quite a lot. It happens quite a lot. So I was always lucky that we were the Clealls, and people used to say, wow, that girl gets everywhere, not realizing there was two of us. To this day, I'm the assistant coach at Wasps now, and I asked the ref a question, and he went, you've just asked me that a minute ago over there. And I went, no, I didn't. And I just played ignorance. And I was like, what are you on about, ref? And then at the end I went, oh, by the way, I got an identical twin sister. And he was like, he was like, you could have told me that before, but yeah, no. So they've been a huge, huge help. So World Cup final, we lost. My sister actually flew to New Zealand for a weekend. So that's a pretty long way and a pretty long flight for 3 days. And then, the final whistle went and they were in the stands. Funny enough, I wasn't in tears. I was a bit like, right, let's sort of process this. And I hadn't really got, the tears hadn't come yet, but I look up and my sister's in absolute bits. And I was like, why are you crying? And she was like, I just feel so sad that you haven't got the chance. And I was like, don't worry about it. It's okay. There's bigger things in life, sort of. That's sort of the narrative I went with at that moment, try and calm myself down because I was irate. But anyway, so yeah, they're huge, huge help. And I think when you have a support system around you and people that sort of live kind of vicariously through you. So my dad comes to all my games. He's retired now and he lives traveling the country, watching the rugby and stuff like that. And you want to give back to them as much as you give, they give to you. So you want to entertain them. You want to bring them home trophies. You want to make them enjoy it, because there's nothing worse than coming off the pitch and seeing your dad when you've lost and you've played absolutely appallingly. So yeah, they've been huge and I'm really lucky to have them.
No, that's fantastic. I suppose a similar question to you, Dodge, really. Even before Bournemouth Sevens, who's helped you on your sort of journey all the way through from when you started in business, and who's been key for you, would you say?
Oh man, and my mum and dad.
So family again.
100%. Tight-knit family. Growing up, living above pubs, very different childhood to most sort of your normal childhood. And it was very entrepreneurial. It was very go out there and find out yourself, go and work it out. Education wasn't all you needed. It was about people. It was about creating relationships. It was about being curious. It was about taking risks. So it was a very different kind of upbringing. I guess that's why we've just created our own businesses over the last 25 years. And yeah, but mum and dad, 100%. Yeah. And
do you enjoy mentoring now? Do you try and put back?
100%. I love it. I absolutely love helping people, because I know what I was like. I was always the one asking the questions. I was the one curious to find out the answer, and I wasn't the one at school would say the answer because I wasn't clever enough to know what the answer was. But I was the one asking the question, saying why, how, who, because I wanted to know that, and that's done me quite good in later life. I think curiosity is a superpower, and it's not used enough. And I like to mentor other entrepreneurs about being curious, about taking risks, about being aggressively patient, about being just a day person, not a tomorrow person, urgency, all these things that aren't really spoken about with the entrepreneurs who may have learned from books, So I love to help young entrepreneurs coming through for sure. And not even young entrepreneurs, people in business, because no one was ever taught business. No one was ever taught, but you're not taught business at a GCSE or A-level. You go out there and you do it yourself, and that's why 85% of businesses fail, So, and only 5% of businesses get past 10 years. There's reasons for this, and I'm a firm believer of speaking to some really strong entrepreneurs in the UK. I'm a judge on the Great British Entrepreneur Awards, and there's some good entrepreneurs I respect on there, and we all come together and help other people. I get a buzz from it. I don't want anything from it. I just want to get a buzz to knowing that one conversation you have with someone coming through, it might be 25, 26, 27, they can't work out how to break even. Half an hour conversation can change the whole view on what direction they're going in.
No, that's fantastic. I do agree how important that sort of advice is. I think I was given advice when I started, and even now I refer back to it, even now. Coming back to you, Poppy, you have exposure to the RFU Elite Player Performance Program, if we can say it properly. What is that? Because it's, for me, being an elite athlete is something I'll never be. But what is that program? I was close. I could have made it. But what does that mean?
So, like I alluded to earlier, we went professional in 2017, and we were the first ever. There's 30 of us, and we were the first ever professional female rugby players in the world. And ever since then, we've been professional. So it's a little bit different to the men. So the men are they've got contracts with their clubs. So Saracens, Harlequins, Gloucester, and so on. And they're not centrally owned by the RFU, but that's what we are. So they're our bosses, and they're in charge of everything. So they supply psychologists, nutritionists, all the coaches, all the support staff. There's staff coming out our ears. We don't even know what half of them do. And it's just a really good support network for us as females. And England Rugby and the RFU is one of the best nations in the world at supporting us. And I think that's why they get the number one ranked team in the world, and we have been for a few years. We haven't won a World Cup in a few attempts, but we're the number one ranked, and we've had huge successes, and that's from the just the money they put in and the investments, and that's the sort of reward they get. And they were one of the first to jump on the bandwagon and really put their money where their mouth is, and now they're reaping the rewards. So 100% we're getting complete support through it. When I was 12, 13, 14, and I said, Dad, look, I want to play rugby for England, I want to be a rugby player when I'm older, people would laugh and go, well, you can't do that as a profession, you've got to get another job. What do you want to do as your other job, sort of thing. And it was just seen as a hobby, but now it's not. It's seen as a professional career. And you can now stand up in school, and when they go, what do you want to be when you're older? And you can say a women's rugby player, because you can now get paid for it. It's definitely changed in the 10 years that I've been playing it. And now we're completely supported. We're getting more and more equal with the men. And things are growing and things are progressing.
Is there much crossover to the men's game? I saw Jamie George working with, I think it was Amy Cockayne last year. Is that quite common for the men and women to train together, work together, especially in the sort of specialist positions?
So we train out the same place, so Penny Hill Park. I don't know if anyone's been there, but it is nice. It is nice. It's a nice venue. And they've got an elite sort of pitch and barn with a gym in, and an inside area and an inside 3G. And we didn't get access to that until the last sort of 3-4 years. Before it was that's the men's training facilities, that's not yours. And then, a few questions were asked and eyebrows were raised, and now we get access to it. So we're getting more and more aligned. We had Jamie George, like you mentioned, come into training to work with some of our hookers, and it's not that that's quite uncommon, but they've got their own schedules, they've got their own games, they're traveling the world as well as much as we are. So it's really hard to sort of align. But at club level, when we train out the same place, we're always constantly seeing each other, and it's definitely way more integrated. It's not all smoke and mirrors. We are 100%. Now when they say something in women's sport, they're kind of getting. It's not just like I said, smoke and mirrors. There's actually truth behind it, and I think that's nice, and we're getting sort of rewarded and acknowledged.
And that's great to see, because it's been separate for many years. So I think that's good to hear. Talking about teams, Dodge, you said you've got a small team around you at the moment. How do you cope with suddenly growing that team? I think you said 800 people for festival season. How do you manage that? Because that's a changing team in a matter of weeks or months, really.
Yeah, it's a lot of people to manage. I'm lucky that I've built a great management and directors in place. So it's coming to year 18 now. It's a well-oiled machine, but we've got great directors in place to be managing everything on site for that weekend. But throughout the year, we've got 7 full-time staff who work on the festival all year round, which seems crazy where you think about most businesses, you would earn your money monthly. We don't earn anything. The whole risk is you earn all your money on just 3 days a year. It's pretty wild when you step back. And as I'm getting a little bit older, like I look back and think, Jesus Christ, that's crazy risk, you know. And there's so many moving parts that could go wrong, you know, whether it's weather, whether it's, there's so many things that could go wrong when putting a small mini town into a field for 3 days over 67 acres of land and turning it into 12 festival arenas and everything you've got to do with toilets, showers, fencing, etc.
Does weather really impact the weekend? Obviously, a lot of pre-sales, but does it impact the actual weekend very often?
It doesn't. The last time it tonked down with rain was 2014. Touch wood, if there's any wood around here. It's all plastic. 2014, when it really tonked down one year. But we've been really lucky. You know, May Bank Holiday weekend. It does it changes the vibe. Like if it's sunny, people are turning up in hot pants, shorts, tight tops. Blokes are wearing not much, and it kind of works for everyone. You know, flip flops and trainers, etc. But if it's raining or something like that, they'll put in a jacket. It just creates a different vibe. But it doesn't change the numbers. You know, people are still there to have fun and dance and enjoy themselves and meet new people, meet friends for life. And lots of people have got married from there and had kids from there, and you'll have girls coming down from Liverpool and meeting guys down from Chelsea, and all of a sudden they've got family together. So we created quite a few babies, I think, over the years.
Coming back to you, Poppy, mental health in sport has obviously become very, very important. And I read recently that Ben Youngs from the men's rugby team was a sports psychologist since he was 16. Have you seen that change within the player sort of program and the elite players? How, you know, you mentioned psychologists at the World Cup. Is it really a thing, and do you take it extremely seriously as well?
100%. So in the last couple of years, I think they've seen the growth and the worth of having one. So having that support rather than letting us sort of fend for ourselves and work things out. You know, having that professional support and someone, you know, that knows what they're talking about to guide us along the way and set up processes and how we deal with things, because elite sport's a tough place. You know, you've got the whole world looking at you. You're out there, you're thinking you're trying to play rugby, but you've got the whole world sort of telling you what they think you should be doing and what you're doing wrong. You've got then, you know, other people, you know, your coaches, stuff like that. And, you know, all you want to do go out there is do your best. And it does take, you know, a few things to align and you to get, you know, everything to come together to get to that point. And sometimes that could be getting help from a sports psychologist. You know, I've known a few teammates that have struggled with that sort of thing, whether that's the crowd, whether that's the pressure of the game. You know, I've known teammates to be being sick before the game just from nerves and just from the occasion. And I think that's sort of counterproductive when you want to go out there, you want to play your best and you need to be fueled, but there you are, you haven't got any breakfast anymore. So I think that, you know, there's definitely, it happens to everybody. You see Lionel Messi, you know, he's one to know to be also, you know, to be unwell before a game because of nerves. So it happens to the best. And I think that's got to be acknowledged, that the sports like help isn't because you're weak. It isn't because you're, you know, you don't know what you're doing. You know, it happens to everybody. Everybody needs to help sometimes. And whether that's to address the nerves or whether that's to address your performance in a big moment, that's okay. And I think sometimes people go, oh, why do you need help from a sports psych? But that shouldn't be the narrative. The narrative should be, it's exactly the same as a nutritionist. It's exactly the same as your kicking coach. You know, sometimes you might need help with your mental skills as well.
Are you taught how to deal with social media? Because obviously there can be some pretty horrible stuff out there about performances, win, lose, or whatever. Are you taught how to deal with that as well now?
Yeah, we do. We do have discussions and workshops with our media manager, but I think we've been extremely lucky as women's sporters in when we're growing, and we haven't seemed to get the same negativity and the same, you know, horrific comments online. However, in the last couple of years, that's changing. So we were always separate from the men, and I always did feel so sorry for the men. You know, when there's a pile on or when there's a social media, everyone just jumps on and the trolls and stuff like that. And we've been kind of lucky, and I think you've seen more female athletes open up their personalities and getting to know people. But I think the more we do that and the more that happens, we will just be sort of opening ourselves up for sort of the trolls and things like that. So we do get taught sort of techniques. So, you know, on social media now you can put in specific words that you don't want to see. So, you know, you might put in, I don't know, you can use your imaginations, and then that will stop ever being seen on your timeline. You can cut down on comments and just things like that, just to help yourself be able to still express yourself, be able to still show your personality, but not get that sort of nasty side. So for me, recently I deleted my Twitter because it was just, so don't try and tweet me because it was just awful. It's just, I think it's one of the worst social platforms going. But yeah, so there's just different advice you can get, and it's up to you really and how you want to play it.
No, that's great. Come back to you, Dodge. You now host a very successful podcast, which maybe came about in the quieter years. And you had some amazing guests, and I've listened to a number of them. Who would be your top 2 or 3 guests you've had on, and why have they impressed you?
That's a difficult question. We've done 250 episodes now, and it's called Eventful Lives. So there's been some people who have been on there who've lived some serious eventful lives, but the people that have really stood out to me, who I enjoy and are friends, have been the people who give back, and they've been in our arena, my world of entrepreneurship and sport and business. And I think Barry Hearn is a wonderful guy, a good friend of mine, and he speaks so much sense about life and business. And I guess he's the couple of generations above, and he's been a kind of mentor to me. Not a mentor in like, I go and see him, I've got this, but Baz, what's your thoughts on this? Bam, 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 bam. And we just bounce like that. So Barry Hearn, obviously, I don't know if people know who Barry Hearn is. He owns Matchroom Sport, and his son's Eddie Hearn. They've built an amazing business across many, many sports. God, there's so many. Harry Redknapp, again, what you can learn from him and what lots of people can learn is give people your time. He's a man who gives people his time. If you're across the road and you don't know him and you wave and you wanted to have a chat, he'll walk across the road and have a chat with you. If you're out somewhere, he'll have a chat with you. So there's all these little simple things in life that we kind of forget, and it's giving people time is such a wonderful gift. And what I've learned over the years, one of the superpowers, which again, it's not spoken about, which now I'm going more public, I'm starting to speak about this, is the power of listening and the power of pausing. They're so powerful, but people want to reply without listening all the time. And when you meet someone who actually listens and take things on board, it really is powerful. But you said 2 or 3. If you went through the list, I could reel some amazing stories about different people and stuff like that. But I guess those 2, because they're in my world.
In the sports world,
yeah,
and I know you're looking to invite Poppy on your next podcast.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure.
After when you first read out World Cup winner, then you might drop the mic. I'll walk off. Yeah,
I'm sure you missed them off as well.
In the sports world, who's sort of thought that was a really good guest for whatever reason.
Yeah, the people that I'd like on in the sports world,
or both really. Who you had on?
We had this conversation last night before we flew back. We were recording that in Ibiza. We'd done 10 episodes with 10 proper characters out there. And over dinner, Josh asked who you would like on. Has anyone heard of Dana White? UFC owner, 100% Dana White, because he's relentless. He gets it. He's a promoter. He's created a wonderful sport out of nothing, and he's super successful. But again, he's kind, and he looks after people. So definitely Dana White. Another one I would like to really get on would be David Beckham. I think he's a national treasure. I think what he's done for the country in sport, and what he's done of moving from one of the biggest clubs in the world, from Manchester United to Real Madrid to Paris Saint-Germain, and now he owns his own. He went to Inter Milan or AC Milan. Now he went to America and owns his own football club that he took a punt on, and now it's a multi-billion-dollar football. Like, it's the most amazing story ever, Yeah, they're the 2. They'd be nice to get Conor McGregor on, but he doesn't. We don't pay anyone, and apparently the least he does it for is 50 grand for an hour. And I don't really want to have a chat with someone after paying them 50 bags.
I'm sure Poppy will do it for less than 50 grand. I'm sure.
We don't pay anyone, and that's the lovely thing about it. Because imagine if you had to pay someone, you're there paying someone to have a chat with them in a podcast studio. It doesn't feel the same,
Yeah, no, again, it's really interesting. Yeah. I'll give you Poppy's details afterwards.
No, Poppy, we'll make that happen.
Final question to you both. I've asked you this question before. If you could give one piece of advice, whether it's in sport or in business, whatever, what would it be? I'll start with you, Poppy. What would that bit of advice be? Whether it's to a young sports boy or girl, or what bit of advice would it be?
Okay, so if it was a young sports boy or girl and they were, thinking of just putting their mind to any sport, anything, it would just be like I've always said, come on, Duncan, you should know this. Always try as many sports as you can. Get involved as much as you can. Don't just sort of pigeonhole yourself in one thing. Let's get out there playing. Let's go netball, hockey, golf, tennis, rugby. Try as much as you can, and it will just, in later life, it will just you'll reap so many rewards. But if I was talking sort of more business, I think it's okay for the plan to change, and don't let certain situations or things that happen diminish any of your achievements. You've achieved them. Like, we got to a World Cup final, we didn't win it, but we still got there. We were playing in front of 44,000 people. We had an amazing time getting there. The journey was unreal. We went through 6 weeks of hard work in pre-season. We had the goal and we did fall short, but don't let that sort of shadow still that process and that journey, and what you achieved getting there. We went, I think it was 49 games unbeaten, and then we lost the last one. But don't sort of let that, tarnish what you've achieved before.
No, that's great. And so the same question to you, Dodge. One piece of advice. What would you say?
Take risks.
Take risks.
Yeah, 100%. We've got one life. We're all going to die. It's as simple as that. So why would you not take risks? Why wouldn't you have some fun with it? Waking up every day knowing you've taken a risk and taken a gamble, and you're building a brand or you're building something that you are getting up to do every single day that you enjoy. There's not a better feeling than that. I couldn't think anything worse of going to work somewhere where I didn't enjoy the people around me, or I didn't enjoy what I was doing in the day. Remember, you're with those people 80% of the time. You're probably doing 10 hours of them, 8 hours of sleep, and a couple of hours having a shower and a bite to eat before you go to bed. If you're not doing something you enjoy every single day, it feels like you're just plodding along. But 100% risk, it's so exciting. Every day you've got a gamble. There's a gamble going on. I'm not talking gambling, but taking risks in business. If you've got an idea, everyone's got an idea, but not many people follow through. Everyone goes, oh, that person stole my idea. That person stole. It doesn't matter. Anyone can steal anyone's ideas. Are you going to execute that idea? And are you going to be obsessed by that for 1,000 days? Day in, day out, 1,000 days. That's all you think about. And that's the advice I would give.
No, it's great actually, especially as Spyrosoft started from a risk actually. And
I had a wonderful chat around you. Amazing what you've achieved in such a short space of time. Unreal. That's just a 5-minute chat. I want to know more. Come on.
No, that's great. Thank you both. So that's the end of the first half. So we're going to have a short 10-minute break now. We're going to take questions from the floor now. So you can either ask your questions. There'll be a microphone flying around. You can drop some questions into the little box, which we'll ask on your behalf. And if you're online, you can drop them into the chat, and then we'll be asking them as well. So 10-minute break, and we'll be back, and we'll see you soon. Welcome back, everyone. We're now into the Q&A section of the event. So there'll be questions from the floor. So we're gonna sort of try and rotate round. So we'll get questions from people here, and then people online as well. So who knows what we're going to get? So be prepared. We're going to start online. So in the room. So does anyone like to kick us off with a question in the room? Raise your hand up. Oh, there you go. Paul here at the front. Shane is our roving reporter with the microphone.
This is a question to Dodge. Is there one music act that you would love to book, and is there one particular artist up and coming that you see potential in for the music side?
For the music side of things, one big act that I'd like to do. There's no one that really stands out to me, because you've got to get it right. You've got to look at your audience. You've always got to make sure that your audience is the right act for the audience. And if I was to get someone like Dizzy Rascal, I think would be amazing, but we're all like 30. Everyone's pretty much, apart from a few, 30 plus here. Our crowd's sort of an 18 to 30 crowd, So each year you've got to get it right. There's no one that really stands out for me that properly excites me at the moment. There's no one out there. I think the music genres at the moment, I think it needs something needs to happen in British music. We've lost bands. We've lost bands, proper music that we all like, and it's all DJ led at the moment. And the sounds that are coming out at the moment have really changed over the years, from house and garage to tech to, I don't even know what the kids are listening to these days. But we play it at the festival, and I'm just like, oh mate, really, come on. But they seem to love it, so you just play more of that. But yeah, there's not one act that really stands out to me. Maybe David Bowie if he was still about.
That's great, Dodge. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Paul, for the question as well. So this is a question for you both from the they've not put their name on it, but I'll start with you, Poppy. If you could have coffee or dinner with someone past or present, who would it be and why? Dodge has got time to think now, so he's probably quite pleased. Coffee or dinner with anyone past or present, who would it be? You can't say me. If Dodge has got one, we can go with him first.
You got one? Yeah. I would. Cool. That's a tricky one. I think I would go with Winston Churchill.
Oh.
So in the past, I think I'd just like to know more about, the decisions they made back then and how he saved our country in the World War, basically.
Wow, brilliant! That's a great answer. Actually, try and beat that, Dodge.
100% for me with David Attenborough.
Huh?
Yeah, before it's too late. I would love to be able to sit down for half an hour of that man and try to understand everything that he's gone through and everything that he's brought to the TV over the years for everyone. And he's just a national hero, right?
Because he's been not just about what he does now. He's had a massive career in the media, hasn't he?
Huge. He was doing stuff. He's a pioneer of everything to do with wildlife. To go into places that people couldn't even get airplanes to. Go into places that before planes were even about, like getting boats to places and then filming with cameras that were really old, but bringing it all back to where we are now and creating the documentaries they're creating now. It's off the charts. And he'd be sorely missed. Someone I think had, is he 98? Is he 98? And I saw him at Wimbledon tennis, and he's still sharp. He still presents himself lovely, and he's got a wonderful team around him. And I think he'll just keep going and going. He might go to like 120. So hope so. But yeah, definitely for me would be David Attenborough.
No, that's great. Thank you both again. Thank you for the question. So we're going to go for one online, and Shane is going to ask the question on behalf of that person online.
Okay, one for Dodge, please. So could you explain what you mean by aggressive patience? I think it's something you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's something that I live by, being aggressively patient, because entrepreneurship, I think the way social media is at the moment, people want things very, very quickly. Instant gratification these days on Instagram and Facebook and all the other platforms. People feel that you can get something overnight, and these special magic wand that you can have something within a year and be a multimillionaire and stand behind these ugly green sports cars that they stand behind and jump on planes. It's not there. It's not there. Aggressively patient for me is knowing that when I'm running a business and I'm doing another startup, I know it's going to take 1,000 days. I have to be aggressively patient. You have to be patient and be aggressively patient to know that you've got to wait. But at the same time, you mix that with urgency, and then you're onto something. If I've got an idea, I like to ponder it that moment. If I have an idea tonight, I might meet someone tonight and have something that pop into my mind. I'll go away and research it tonight. I'll go and do my homework tonight. I don't watch telly, so there's nothing wasting my time, no Netflix, nothing like that. I'm just on it and finding out what else is out there to start creating. Aggressively patient is words that no one has used. It's something, like I was saying before, now I'm starting to go public and helping more people. It's something that I really believe should be taught more in business. Things don't happen quickly, man. To run a business, to set up a business, to break even takes, lucky if you do it in 3 years, sometimes 5 years. Sometimes people don't even break even. People are running at a loss in business, but people don't talk about this. And I'm going to start talking about this. So many businesses are run at a loss. And I think what's going to happen, in just my opinion on this, I think 30th of October is going to be a big change for a lot of people in business. Because when you're running a business, you carry a lot of ego, you carry a lot of pride. You may have borrowed money off your mum and dad or your brother or your friends. And when they see you and they say to you, how's your business going? With your teeth, a big smile, you're like, yeah, it's going fine. But you're like a swan on the top and under steam, like flapping like God knows what underneath. And there's this thing that needs to be taken out of the way, and that is your ego. Because if you're losing money in a business, stop losing money each year. Just knock it on the head, because the lessons you learn from that business, you will then go and create a successful one in your next one. And the power of saying no is a superpower again. I'm so excited to be speaking about this stuff because I've got the T-shirt for it. So I feel like I can I can help people learn a lot quicker rather than going down this path of trying to pretend that everything's okay, because business is really, really, really tough. Really tough. We're getting taxed on turnover. Yeah, there are taxes everywhere, hidden taxes. There are taxes everywhere. They just confuse you. VAT is a tax, on your turnover, income tax, corporation tax. Every time as an employer, every time I want to employ someone, I've got to pay 13.8%. If I employ someone for 100 grand, to keep things simple here, you've got to pay 13.8% or something on top to the government just to employ that person. They're not creating any incentives for us employers to keep people on, keep people going. Then you've got to match their pension. There's all these things. So before you know, you're paying an extra 20% on people's salary. So, yeah. What was the question? What was the original question?
It was a very good answer to the question.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Aggressively patient, was it? Yeah, that was aggressively patient. Yeah. I'm super passionate about business and entrepreneurship. So that's kind of my mind just...
That's great. Thank you, Dodge, and thanks to the guys online for that question as well. So we're going to go to the floor again now. So again, if you could put your hand up if you've got a question. We've got one there from Sean. Thank you, Sean, for asking the question.
Thanks, Poppy. Just a quick question. I find it fascinating that you're part of the sport when it kind of made the switch over to what's kind of considered professional sports. When that happened, was that something you noticed happened very quickly? And did it come with any additional pressure when there was more eyes on the sport, more interest in it?
You turned it off. So, there was definitely pressure. Like I said before, we were the first ever fully professional women's rugby team, and I felt like we kind of had to hold that mantle of being so. Other nations, they've turned professional now, but they slowly behind us, and they sort of used us as a blueprint. So I think there was pressure. We were going out, and we were quite a lot of the narrative was England Red Roses beat amateur sides, and I was like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. It just happened to be in my 10-year career we've gone professional, and like they haven't, and that was just a narrative. Every time we won a Six Nations, it was the professional Red Roses beats all the other amateur sides, and it was like it kind of like tried to, well, it did diminish sort of some of our achievements. It kind of had a shadow over it. And it was kind of, you were like, come on to the other nations, let's get professional, let's make this an even playing field, let's make this competitive. And still we're kind of struggling with that. So you'll see quite some of the scores and the results of the Six Nations aren't always as competitive as they should be, but now all nations are professional, so it should sort of be catching up. But yeah, it was a struggle, and it was hard because you'd go back with the Six Nations trophy and you just won another Grand Slam, but it was like, but you kind of just played amateurs. So how much of that are you going to really celebrate? So it was tricky, but you can only play what's in front of you. You can only do what, you're sort of told to do. So it was just be the best version of yourselves, be the best team we could be, put out the best performances, and sort of just work on us as a team and our culture, and just making sure that we're getting the most out of that professionalism.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you, Poppy. Thank you, Sean, for that question. Okay, so one out of the Goldfish Bowl. I'll go to you, Dodge, with this one first. What's the hardest hurdle you've had to overcome, and how did you deal with it? I'll probably ask you the same question actually afterwards, Poppy.
Hardest hurdle, there was two. The first one was launching Bournemouth Sevens, which we spoke about before, with remortgaging the house and the gamble there. And the second one was getting through the pandemic. They were the biggest hurdles that from my career that really stand out. They're the two biggies. And you've just got to adapt. And if you're resilient, you work out a way. And I loved it. It's bonkers, but I genuinely loved it, because it was like working it all out. As an entrepreneur, you're a problem solver. What have you got to do to solve this problem, to get through to protecting your team and creating a solid festival again?
Is it an adrenaline rush,
Yeah.
I think, as well?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So it pushes you through that way.
Yeah, 100%. I love anything to do with an adrenaline rush like that. Yeah. And then the weird thing is that we lost this as a family. We lost a lot of money in 2020, and we were so close to losing copious amounts of money again in 2021. But we had that lifeline, and I truly believe is that the amount of effort we put in to keep positive, keep the team positive, to do everything we possibly can, working with the police, the council, the license, the COVID committees, whatever they were called, COVID people, and we did absolutely everything. We grafted hard, and I think for the amount of energy that we put in, we kind of got the result at the end of it to be allowed to put the festival on. And it's kind of win-win. The sun came out, and there was a serious amount of people at that year's festival because everyone had passed on their tickets on from the year before, and then another huge influx of people like, oh my God, we can go and party. So there's another X amount of thousands come through the doors that year.
Would you say it was, in hindsight, that 2021 festival, was that the best one ever? Bearing in mind the extra people who were allowed out, would you say?
Financially, it was the best one ever. Yeah. But for me, it wasn't the best one ever because it was so busy.
Okay.
It was so busy. And we were caught because we were trying to find anyone. I was putting stuff on Facebook and putting stuff out there. Anyone to work behind the bar, get in contact with me. And we had to have 250 bar staff. We had to have 250 security. We had to find 200, 150 referees and umpires. And it just went on and on and on. And we were just, anyone who wants to work behind the bar, please come and work behind the bar. You know, you got to remember, people who are security people, they have to renew these badges they put on their arm, and their SIA badges, they're called. No one renewed their badges because there was no nightclubs open, there was no bars open, nothing was open, so no one renewed them. So we were making sure, please renew them to get, but they had to go and do a 3-day course to renew. So it was, everyone was just shooting off the hip. You know, the government, us, everyone was, no one knew what was going on, but we did the best we possibly could, and we came through it.
No, that's great to hear, Dodge. Now, the same question for you, Poppy, with the microphone on this time. So same question. How would you answer this question?
I think probably now is probably the biggest challenge in my career. So, like we've mentioned before, I've been around a long time, probably a veteran of the sport, you might say. So, 150 appearances for Sarri, 66 for England, captain my country, 2 World Cups. And now I'm struggling to get into the England team. And it's like, when do you stop and when do you give up? So I think that's do I take the risk, as Dodge keeps saying, do I take the risk and carry on and try and get into the team? But, it could be a no and I'll never get in again. Or do I just give up now, go hang my hat and go happy with that? So I think now it's was probably the hardest bit, losing my contract. So if anyone don't know, I lost my professional contract in June this year. So I've been a professional rugby player for 6 years, and then got a 1-minute phone call and it was just like, we're not renewing your contract and you'll be out of a job in 4 weeks. So lost my job within that minute, and there's no leaving party and there's no presents and thank you for your service. It's just see ya. So that was pretty tough, but luckily I've got massive support of Sarri, so I'm still semi-professional at Saracens, so I'm lucky with that, and I've picked up some part-time work so I can still try and make the 2025 Home World Cup. So you'll be pleased to know that I'm still sort of staying in the game, and I'm trying my best, get my head down and get back into the England team because I think the Home World Cup in 2025 is going to be massive. And I should probably all tell you as well, they sold 55,000 tickets for the World Cup final in a week. So it'll be the first, bear in mind the record is 60,000 for a women's rugby game. So they're going for 80,000 in a sellout at Twickenham, which with a week of sales, only 55,000. I think they might do it.
No, definitely. Yeah. No, I suppose, but just to add to that, you will definitely make it to the World Cup. If you do chip and chases like you did at the weekend, if you want to have a little video, look at Poppy's chip and chase. And since you play number 8, it's pretty impressive. So if you're a rugby fan, look up the video, because I'm sure she'll make it to the World Cup next year, taking the risks that Dodge was talking about as well. So I think we're going to go online now for a question.
Yeah, one for Poppy, please. Probably relates to a little bit what you've been going through recently, actually. Someone's asked, what mental health coping methods could you share that you use during hard times?
So if, sort of something that I would use and work on would just be staying present, making sure I'm in the moment and the process. So quite a lot of the time you focus on the sort of the really big goal and sort of the end goal rather than, the small one in front of you and one that you can really achieve in that week or that month. So, like I said, the World Cup's in a year. It's really hard to stay motivated every day and stay on a journey when something's in 365 days. So, if we can create like small goals and create small achievements along the way, you can just get into those habits and make those habits, really drive you forward and make you better in rugby and as a person. So yeah, definitely for that. Sometimes I got way ahead of myself, looked right into the future, even probably in January, I was looking, I got another year professional rugby player. No, you don't, sort of thing. So yeah, just don't get too ahead of yourself and try and make sure you've got those small goals so you can keep really motivated and really present.
No, that's a great question, actually. Thank you, Poppy. Thank you as well. We're going to come back to the room now. Have we got any more questions? There's two here. We'll go to Karen first in the red, and we'll come to the lady at the front. We'll do them both together, Shane, actually. So if we go to Karen, then we'll come straight to you afterwards.
I'd like to ask Dodge a question about his businesses and going back to risk. So if, for example, all your businesses were so successful, none of them were a risk anymore, how would you feel?
Bored. Bored. Yeah, absolutely bored. So I've built 5 businesses from startups over the last 25 years, 10 years, putting on 1,500 parties in nightclubs all across the UK. We had 12 nightclubs every week from Manchester, Birmingham, Leicester, London, in my 20s. In my 30s, went into creating a festival. And then in the pandemic, we took another risk and risked £250,000 on creating something completely that no one had done before, doing an online events course. Instead of going to university and coming out of 50 grand's worth of debt, you can do an online events course and spend £3,000 and we'll get you a job after 3 months. So that was a big risk, and we're now year 4 into that, and we haven't broken even yet. So this is real, and I'm happy to talk about this. And then we launched the podcast in 2020 in the pandemic, where I didn't know what a podcast was, and now we're working it all out. Again, it's a new business. You're working it all out to find out where the revenue streams come from, and all of a sudden, you can get paid by YouTube. YouTube will pay you to do this stuff.
So can I ask, would you say you're a risk addict?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah. That's a good way of putting it. We're talking about addiction last night. There's lots of different addictions, but I've never heard of risk addiction. I quite like that. I might use that. Yeah, and I'll quote you. Yeah, risk addiction, like it.
That's great. Thank you. So yeah, we'll come to the lady in the front now for her question.
Thank you. Question for Poppy then. So when you eventually do hang up your boots from professional rugby, semi-professional rugby, what's the plan for you?
Actually, I'm considering it now. It's go and work for Bournemouth Sevens. I think, like I mentioned before, as a prison officer, and I did enjoy that. It was a hard job. Don't get me wrong; it was a really hard job, but I did enjoy that aspect. So I think I'd go on to be a police officer. I'd try and apply and be a police officer. So who knows? That's probably be the next goal. But as a coach, I've just become assistant coach for a WASP ladies. So it's a voluntary role every week, and it's enjoyable. Just going back to grassroots. So, I grew up in grassroots. We go to this professional game and we get immersed in this professional attitude. So it's quite nice to step out and go back down to the grassroots and, after a big game with some big drinks and just enjoy yourself and get bonded with people from different walks of life. And when you meet them, you can talk about what they did in their job and stuff. When you go to professional, you run out of things to talk about because you've seen them yesterday and they haven't done much. So it's really hard, but it's just meeting so many new people. So definitely I'm going to stay in rugby. I just don't know sort of what avenue that is. I thought I'd be a good rugby coach, but I'm absolutely naff at it. So probably got some things to work on with regards to that. But yeah, definitely stay in rugby, but probably the ultimate aim would be to be a police officer.
Great stuff. Thank you for the question as well. So one out of the goldfish bowl. I'll ask Dodge first and I'll come to you. And it could be a tough one here, Dodge. What has been your one highlight of your career so far? Pick one highlight of your career. You said you founded 5 businesses from scratch. Is there one highlight you think, maybe surviving the pandemic? I don't know. What would you say it is? Poppy's got time to think for this one.
One highlight. Selling a company. I've never sold a company before.
Okay.
And we created a sportswear brand called Viper 10 Sportswear. And we created that in the world financial crisis in 2008, but we launched that in 2010. And we built that for eight years. And we got approached by someone saying, we've been watching you Dodge for the last 3 years. We'd like to buy your company. And that was all new to me. I was at that point where we were just building brands and building stuff to make a business work that we can feed the family and feed the team and make sure everyone's happy. And to actually sell a company and go through that process, when you do a deal with someone, and for me, when I do deals with people, I look at them in the eye and shake, that's good enough for me. but that is an old school way of doing it. I didn't realize you've got to go through all this paperwork and you've got to sign this, you go through accountants and lawyers, and it was an 8-month process. But yeah, no, it's not. That's not my highlight. That is not my highlight. It was something new, and it was a tick box to say, oh, I've sold a company, so I know what it's like, because not many people. Definitely not my highlight, because I didn't like that company. Oh man, you put me on the spot. Highlight. I think highlight has been a podcast host. To be able to be curious every single day and to have the most amazing conversations with people who've been there, done it, got the T-shirt, whether they've been SAS, whether they're international drug smugglers, whether they're from the criminal underworld, whether they're a pro sports athlete, whether they're a billionaire, whether they're an entrepreneur, whether they've run the desert, around the desert 4 times backwards, or like the most amazing conversations. I would say living my dream right now of being curious as a kid, and now I'm getting paid to be curious. That's my highlight, 100%.
Great answer.
Because I've got a buzz from it.
Yeah.
You know, when you build businesses, you build them and you get good management in place. An entrepreneur and plus management equals success. But then I get kind of bored as well. But you can't get bored being a podcast host, because every single day you're chatting to someone completely new and you don't know what bonkers story they got. So I think that would probably be the highlight at the moment, I think.
No, great answer. As you could tell, your second answer, you're much more passionate.
100%. I don't know why I was saying that first answer. Like, I didn't even enjoy the company, but we ended up selling it. So that was the buzz, I guess. But and as soon as you sell a company and you sign the papers, you're expecting people to jump out the wardrobes going with party poppers and champagne. It was like, oh, was that it? We went and had a glass of champagne. Yeah.
Okay, great stuff. And Poppy, same question for you. Highlight of your career.
I think my highlight would have to be captain of my country. Thank you. Right, where's the party poppers? It was sort of a amalgamation of years and years of hard work. I think I got my 50th cap in the Six Nations, and it was the autumn series. And
who was it against? Who did you captain against?
New Zealand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we hadn't beaten them in a few attempts, and we actually beat them at Northampton. Destroyed them, actually. Great captaincy. No, it was an easy job, actually. It was really easy. I didn't have to do anything. And then again in the following Six Nations against Italy away. And I think just being asked and just having the respect of the the best rugby players in the country, in the world, and being able to lead them was amazing.
Great answer. Again, 2 really good answers there. So great question. So we'll do one more online, and I think then we'll probably take 1 or 2, maybe 2 more from the floor, and then we'll call it an evening. So yeah, online, Shane.
Yeah, this is for Gemma, and this is to both of you, please. What do you believe has driven you to get to the level of success that you have achieved? So what's been that driver?
Competitiveness. I'm just so competitive. I think with an identical twin sister, it was just sort of in me from the moment I can remember. The amount of fights I've had just with her, not with other people, just with her. Just being so competitive about everything. Our GCSE results, it's so naff to think about now. I was so competitive about our GCSE results. Who passed their driving test first? Absolute dross like that. But back then it meant so much. And I think now everything's so competitive to me in the sport we play. I can, if we're playing the warm-up touch match, I want to win that. So I think that's definitely driven me to try and be the best that I can be and make sure I'm always on the winning side. And it's something that I had to learn as I grow up, because I got so connected to the winning and losing. And if we won, I was on a massive high, and if we lost, it took me 3 days to get over. So that's sort of a learning process during my career of how to lose, essentially, because I wasn't taught that when I was growing up. So, but yeah, I think my competitive nature has just definitely driven me.
Exactly the same. Competitive nature, getting the buzz of success. It used to be the fear of failure. Yeah, it used to be the fear of failure, but it's not that anymore. I guess when I was starting off, the fear of failure of having nothing and building up to everything we got today, I get a buzz of creating new stuff, and really competitive. Yeah, and I work weekends, I work nights. It doesn't matter. Every day's the same. It doesn't matter. I phone people up on a Sunday at 3:00 or a Saturday. I phone anyone at any time, whether it's a lawyer, accountant. My wife's like, you can't call them and say, I can. Why not? Every day's the same to me. So it didn't mean anything. But the early days, it was the fear of failure, but really competitive and the buzz of success. Yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you both. Any more questions in the audience? Oh, we've got a couple. Oh, geez. Okay. I think we've got one. Was it Sarah? Yeah. We'll do one. We'll do Matt first, and then we'll come across to Sarah.
A question for both of you. It's so great to hear about how many tickets have been sold for the World Cup final next year. But just thinking about the wider issues and the gender pay gap, how would you go about sort of continuing to increase the popularity and marketability and ticket sales and everything, sort of to improve revenue in women's sport and women's rugby?
Good question.
It's taking a turn now. Like I mentioned before about how we were the only professional side, that definitely didn't help the growth of women's rugby. If we're going to talk, I'm going to talk about women's rugby because that's all I know. But that didn't help. That we kind of struggled. We went to a few stadiums and we didn't really sell as many as we wanted to because the product was, oh, you're going to go watch England dominate a team. We all know, part of sport is you want to turn up and you want to get entertained, but you don't want to know who wins before you've turned up. So I think that didn't help, but we've now got that investment. And I think now we're sort of, 26, we're coming up to 10 years after we've invested. So we're sort of seeing that, reaping that rewards. And I think it's just that time and that effort. The men went professional in the 90s. They didn't straight away start selling out stadiums. They didn't straight away start making a lot of money. And I think, like Dodger said about being aggressively patient, I think that's what you've got to be with women's sport as well. It's not an overnight thing. We're not going to, here you go professional, and then a year later we're going to go, wow, we sold out here, we sold out there. So, we're coming up to now the first time we're going to sell out a major international stadium, and it's taken 10 years. So I think if that's happening in the number one, the RFU are the, one of the most well-funded rugby nations. So they're in charge of. So if that's happening here, other countries are going to need to catch up. So I think that, it's going to take time, but that's just that investment. And I think we're now reaping that rewards.
Just before Dodge answers, so just to add to that, I know that the Netball Super League is just about to go professional, and they're actually talking to the Premier League rugby and the WSL. So I think women's sport is now getting together as well and working together. Because it's not easy, but it's great to see. So I think they are learning, because WSL has been amazing. What happened with the Euros and the World Cup, and the Netball Super League's trying to follow it. So it's definitely happening. So just as a consumer of things. So
I think they in the news yesterday mentioned that the WSL just got £45 million worth of sponsorship, which is a huge deal. And going to be massive for all women's sports. Oh,
definitely. So so Dodge, sort of same question to you and the growth of women's sport.
I absolutely love women's sport. If I'm just thinking Bournemouth Sevens here, when Bournemouth Sevens started in the early years with 2008, there wasn't many women's rugby teams. Now we've got 60 rugby teams competing, 60 teams coming on tour of like groups of 20 and 30 girls coming in from all different parts of the UK or flying from different countries. And again, in year one of Bournemouth Sevens, I didn't want it just to be a rugby festival. I wanted to add in a women's sport, so we went straight for netball. We've now got 112 netball teams, squads competing over the weekend. The women's sport is overtaking men's sport, and it's fantastic. I'm a massive fan of women's sport. And yesterday we just announced we're adding, for all the years we've said we're never going to add football to the festival because we didn't want football men at the festival. But we've now said there's going to be women's 7-a-side football at the festival. So women's sports played a huge part of Bournemouth Sevens Festival. And I just love women's sport, the way it's now on telly all the time. And it's so much enjoyable to watch. It really is enjoyable. And I kind of get the wow factor. It's like, my God, skills, great passing, great vision, great heading. It's like it's a tick, 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 tick. And when you watch the women play rugby at Twickers and stuff, amazing. I'm a massive fan of women's sport and the way it's going, and even women's boxing I enjoy, because they are professional athletes going through exactly the same. Caroline Dubois, you see Daniel Dubois, who just won the weekend, his sister Caroline, You know, none of them went to school. They all boxing, all homegrown, taught by the dad. And now they're reaping the rewards. Caroline's going to be world champ. Her brother's just taken all the belts off AJ. You know, women's sport for me is going through the roof.
No, great answers both of you, and a great question, Matt, as well. So, last one of the evening. I think Sarah's got a hand up over here. So,
Hi, the question for Poppy, really. I have some concerns about the levels of resilience that we see in some of the younger people that we employ now. And you talk about losing against New Zealand. And I think we all know that sport's a very cruel master. You know, you will lose as much as you will win, you will be benched, you will be injured, there'll be so many reasons. But how do you, as the captain, how do you build resilience in that team to get up and go again?
Yeah, I think that you know, we've actually seen it a lot in the girls coming through actually in women's rugby right now. You know, losing sort of some of the COVID years and stuff like that. They do lack that sort of resilience, and rugby is a huge sport where you have to be resilient. So for a team like England, and you know, we work so hard, like we said earlier, with a psychologist and building up that resilience, but it's you can't dwell, you can't stay there and you can't dwell. You've got to move on. You know, you've got to wake up the next day and move on with things. And for us, we actually really, really strongly talk about having things outside rugby, having different hobbies, having different things that you can take your mind off. So quite a lot of the time you'll see girls come through and they just concentrate on rugby, rugby, rugby. You've got to have a life outside it. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket. And then as a team, we have a massive culture. We have constantly having meetings together about how, you know, we analyze stuff, we talk through things together, we talk through decisions. We've got a really, really good leadership group. So you might just have one captain, but there's actually 5 other people in the leadership group. And I don't know if anyone's come to a Red Roses game, you actually see them get together. So at halftime of a game, the whole squad will run in and have 5 ladies will still be on the pitch, and they'll be having a hot debrief straight away. After every training session, we're having a hot debrief. And that's just to work on the things of what's gone right, what's gone wrong, what are we seeing, and having different eyes. So out of the 5 players, we'll have different opinions, you know what I mean? And the 10 seeing this, the prop seeing this, and the winger seeing this. So we'll come together and we'll work on that. And I think building those connections and those bonds is very important for building the team's resilience, right? And getting ourselves out of problems and making sure we don't get in those problems. So we've had quite a bit of work on that, because when the going gets tough, stuff seems to fall apart. When it's all going fine and dandy and you're winning these games by 40 points, you don't see any cracks. But when it's tough and you're in sort of the bear pit and you've got your backs against the wall, you've got to really come together. And we work so much on the connections. The 8s, 9s, 10s are having weekly meetings. The locks are just having meetings because they're a pivotal calling role in a game of rugby. You've got your front row having meetings, and it's just that constant conversation and checking in on each other, and just making sure that the connections are as tight as we can be, because you're all there to help each other and support each other. Hey, it's not just on one person's shoulder. So quite a lot of the time, you just go, the captain. It's bigger than that. There's five leaders, and all have voices, and they all work together.
No, a great question, a great answer as well, Poppy. Thank you, Sarah, for that. So I'm afraid we run out of time. I'm sure there's lots more questions in here. I'm sure there was some more in the room, but I just wanted to thank, first of all, Dodge and Poppy. So we put your hands together for them. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you all for attending. Thank you for everyone online attending. For everyone in Bournemouth, there's some drinks and some food afterwards. But yeah, so thank you for coming to the event, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.